What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Jade Simone Show. I'm so happy you made it. Can you believe it's week 5? This is episode 5. Honestly, it's blowing my mind. I've been doing this for 5 episodes, and I'm really fucking proud of myself. This started out as a little voice in the back of my head saying, I think I want to start a podcast. I think I want to start a show. I'd really like to have my own show. And then just going for it. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. You guys have been commenting and liking and sending me DMs, and you don't even know how much it means to me. And it's also just hyping up the video online, and I really want to thank you guys for that because I could not do it without you. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the guests. I'm glad you're enjoying the energy, the vibe of the show. If ever you have any ideas, just DM me, let me know. I listen to everything you guys say. I really do. Even the shitty stuff. So babies, you are in for a treat today. Today's guests have a very inspiring story about resilience, determination, and overcoming addiction. The Elevate Life guys are badass, they're funny, they're full of life, and I'm really excited for you to meet them. We've got Bryson Burley, we've got Logan Norris. They both host a podcast called Elevate Life together, where they help people with this type of thing and share their inspiring stories and share their life energy. I cannot wait for you to meet them. They are so full of good vibes. They are funny, they're badass, everything about them just screams amazing. So everyone, please give a warm welcome to Bryson Burley and Logan Norris. Hi guys, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hey Jade.
Good to see you.
What up, Jade?
So obviously I know you guys both have a very similar story that has a lot of depth and struggle and just a lot to it. And I'm really excited to dive into this. And for the listeners, Bryson's my cousin, but I didn't really know about what was going on. I knew kind of, here and there some things going on, but the family kept it very private. So we're all in this together today.
Yep.
I'm learning this story as we all are listening to it. And you guys, your paths eventually crossed, but your stories start out separate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give you a little backing, I met Logan in it was a journey through different programs through my life of childhood, but it was the last program that actually did the changing, I guess you could say. That's where I met Logan, and from there is kind of where we got the idea. We love to help people, and it kind of dove and kind of organically happened into a podcast and videos, and here we are now.
Okay, Bryson, so for you, where does this journey start? Because I know addiction doesn't just happen at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. So I'll kind of give you the fast pace of it, but I was 16 years old when I first started drugs, and I was actually with a friend of mine on a church trek, a church LDS trek, and he basically introduced pills to me. I remember they were Lortabs at the time, little blue 30s, and he basically introduced that. That was the first time I ever took anything. And I remember my mom and dad were on that trip with us as mom and pause. And so it was super awkward. Yeah. We were driving on the bus, and I remember throwing up. We had to pull the bus over. There was 120 people, I think, on this big bus, and it was a church trip, and I'm throwing up, and my friends already experienced everything, and it was the first time I ever have. So I'm throwing up, and my parents are like, what's going on? I'm pale in the face, and I'm lying to them saying I'm just not feeling good. And
food poisoning.
Yeah, food poisoning. Whatever came to mind is what I told them. But that's kind of my first taste to drugs.
I don't even know what a Lortab is. So what is that? What does it feel like for the people
It's a good
listening?
question.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. So for the people that don't know, Lortab, there's a variety of different pills out there, pharmaceutical pills ranging from opiates to benzos to, Adderall and amphetamine. So this one would fall into that opiate category. Okay. Fairly stronger pill. You can get them, pretty much for anything, right, man? They prescribe them to just about anyone. And so usually in your grandma's cabinet, your parents' cabinet, they're pretty accessible. And so it's a oval size, just opiate pill. Depending on the milligram, I'm not sure if you knew what you were taking then, but...
Yeah,
so yours was just recreational. Were you feeling rebellious in any type of way, or how did
you still had to get a doctor's script. So I don't know how he got those pills or anything, but that was kind of my first taste to it. And I remember thinking to this day that I hated it and didn't want it in my life. I was just like, ew, this made me throw up. I didn't like it. But I can't remember, and I don't recall what happened or why I did it again and again and again. And then after that, it was just, I was hooked. Something drew me to it. And obviously through all the rehabs that I have done, which this was my 7th rehab, the John Vulcan Academy is where I met Logan. I mean, it was off and on through the years, as you know, and locked up. I ended up doing 2 years in Las Vegas for some crimes I did. And so it really did ruin my whole childhood and teenage years and even my adulthood. But thanks to the John Vulcan Academy, I was able to get a grip onto everything. And that's where I met Logan. And life has been great since.
So did you feel like, you know, you mentioned that the pills, like, you just kept coming back for more, but you didn't know why. Do you feel like it came from any sense of like internal, like emotional pain or just distress in any way?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. I know now, after, like I said, through all the programs, you know, there was a lot of things I wouldn't say. And a lot of times, you know, I would say people run to addiction to hide from their feelings because of maybe the upbringing of their childhood. That's not me at all. I had a great childhood. Like, my parents were the best parents you could ask for. So it wasn't anything that went wrong like inside the house. It was more not okay in my own skin. Because I wasn't learning as well as others in school, whatever the case may be. My brothers were volleyball stars. I wasn't. I don't know. I couldn't find myself, I guess. And that's where I would run to. And that's what I realized is, you know, and even now, like, you know, I'm coming up on 4 years, I think, sober or so. And I even struggle today on like feeling feelings, you know, when something traumatic happens, or anything, you struggle a little bit. That's where I want to go, because life was just easy to be doped up and numb of the world and everything and all the feelings. And so, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, and so I've been watching that TV show. I'm blanking on the name right now. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's all about like the opioid epidemic and how like Big Pharma started pushing for like,
oh yeah,
just giving like you said, Logan, like giving everybody the pills because it was making them so much money.
Push it. That's
It's the business structure.
Yeah, and like so unfortunate, but it has really ruined so many people's lives and really like been such an ugly thing that just like latches a hold of people that they couldn't let go of.
Yeah, I don't think that people expect how deep it can go, because like you mentioned at the time, everyone could be running from something. It's not necessarily the substance you're putting in your body, it just happens to be there at the time. And so he was getting sick, but he's going back to it. It's not that he wants the pill, it's that I want to feel better, I want to feel happy. And so these doctors, it should come with more of a disclaimer like, hey, we'll give you this prescription, but if you take this whole pill bottle, there's a good chance you're probably coming back for more. So like, you know, I think that there should be more communication with that. But you know, with big companies and how things are going today, it's
awful.
Yeah, no love lost there. Big Pharma's not going to listen to my cries. But
they're not listening to anyone, unfortunately.
they don't listen to anyone's cries.
They
They're
just want to fill their pockets.
Yeah, you're right there.
So what about you, Logan? Where does your story begin?
So kind of similar to Bryson, it was like great family, right? My parents are still married to this day. One other sibling, sister, moved around a lot as a kid, so got used to picking up and going new places and having to be the new kid and make friends. And maybe it came from some of that, but what I remember vividly, I didn't try anything until I was 14 years old. First thing I did try was cannabis, you know, innocent enough. I thought if I was going to do something, this would be the most harmless to try. And I go figure, I loved it. I went to a neighborhood pool in my parents' neighborhood with my buddy Kevin. We were freshmen in high school. I was working at a local bar and grill, and a waitress actually was like, whoa, you've never smoked weed before? Like, let me give you this weed and this one hitter. Like, try this and come back and tell me what you think. I don't blame her.
Drug.
I don't blame her. I was already talking to her about being interested in trying it and asking her how it felt. And so she just kind of extended the thing to me that I was already looking for. And so she handed it to me. We tried it. And I remember like closing my eyes and just feeling like the whole world was spinning. And it was such a weird feeling, and we were both scared to go home, and we had to lie to our parents about where we were. And then, but after that day, we both made it back home. I remember him texting me and said, dude, we did it. Like, I'm home. I'm laying in my bed. I'm so high. Like, this is so fun. And I was like, yeah, this is fun. We tricked them. We got in. Like, we're good. Same time tomorrow. And so it just kind of, that's where it started. And to give a short synopsis like Bryson, I mean, I tried cannabis. After I tried that, I was like, well, this is cool. I wonder what else is cool. So I tried alcohol. Alcohol was cool. I tried cocaine. Cocaine was really cool.
It all numbs you.
It all was really cool. And my point being was I was on this path trying everything because there was something wrong inside. There was pain inside. And so no matter what person, I thought it was cool. I was Mr. Party, good time. Logan's the life of the party. He's going to jump off the roof, or he's going to do a keg stand. I just wanted that kind of attention to feel better, to feel like I belonged. And so I was reckless when anyone showed up with any substance. It was like, oh, I'll take it. I'll try it. I'll try to have the most and try to stay conscious. Like, it was a weird game to me, if that makes sense. I don't know.
So what's interesting is that you guys both have said that your family life was like pretty picture perfect. So I'm wondering, like, how for you, Logan, did it develop where you felt like escaping in some way? Because here's the thing. I would say most high school kids drink and try cannabis. Like, that's just like, they smoke weed. We've all done it and everything. Totally. But there's something different that I think happens, because I actually had some friends who were starting to pop pills in high school, and that really scared me for them. But like, I wasn't willing to do that. So I'm wondering, like, where it comes from to like feel like
or
escaping,
why you get stuck, I guess.
Yeah.
'Cause people do, like, people will start using and they can totally come out. That wasn't me. That wasn't Logan. I chose to go in and out of prison. Same with Logan, and it was just a roller coaster. But
yeah,
I don't know. That's a hard one.
No, and like you said, yeah. So a lot of kids, I'm totally fine with having the normal, like being raised, growing up in high school. Kids go to parties, kids have beer, kids smoke. I don't have an issue with those things today. It was, I guess, I don't know. I went through a really weird rebellious phase when I was in high school. I know a lot of kids do, and this is so cliche, but it was like I did whatever the opposite of what my parents was, what they were asking. All, like, seriously, to a fault. My mom would say, be home by midnight, don't come home messed up. I was home at 3, gone out of my mind, sleeping in the backyard. Like, it was just.
But then when you knew it was bad for you, why didn't you get off? At that point, it couldn't have been still a rebellious thing as you're watching it destroy your fucking life, right? I mean, I don't know.
Well, and I'm sure your parents had to have been like, I mean, I don't know what type of parents you have, but were they like the type to like yell at you or like ground you, or was it just kind of like what happened?
No, so I wish my parents could be here so you could meet them. They're very hands-on. My mom they're Southern. We're from Louisiana, so they're like Southern Belle Mama. Dad works, brings home the money, he disciplines, and she was there for everything. I mean, she helped do some of my school projects. She was a great mom. Yeah. And so, yeah, like you said, I don't know if it was all about the rebellion. I think that there was something eating at me inside that I was coping with, and I was too young and immature to understand that. But when I was messed up or with my friends or just out of myself, that feeling would go away, and I didn't feel empty or like I was trying to find my spot, if that makes sense. And so
totally.
So same thing as insecurity.
Yeah, like and it's weird. I am a very insecure, overly emotional person in my mind. Like, I get choked up over weird things, like little things, and like, I don't know, I just feel very deeply, and I thought that when I would take these things, it made me more of a man, more of like a hard shell.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot going on I'm messed up. What can I say?
And like,
no, I really love that. I think that's really cool what you're saying, because I think that our society doesn't leave a lot of room for men to feel feelings. And, from generations past, the way they dealt with feelings, like raising kids or raising their men to do the same thing. And I think it's unhealthy, because we all are multidimensional creatures and we have so many emotions. Like, girls have emotions, but so do guys. Like,
oh yeah,
Yeah,
and I think it was lack of coping skills, and I wasn't using the resources I had. Like, we had great parents, beautiful home. I played sports. I was a two varsity letter, wrestling and track. Like, it really shouldn't have happened. I still think about why I was putting my family through that, my sister, my friends. Like, people would have said, like, wow, we would have never thought he would have done that. And it was so out of left field for me. But when I was on that path, it was bad.
In reality, I guess you would say how I viewed myself, it was trash. And I thought I wasn't a good communicator. I wasn't a good learner. But in all reality, you really were to the world. And somehow, some way we were thinking, hey, we're on the bottom, and everything. And I remember even my childhood, like watching my two older brothers grow up and do things that they have accomplished that felt good, like going on a church mission, that everyone was so happy for him and stuff. And I'm so far from that. And so that kind of piled on top of everything too, because it's like, oh, I'm a disappointment. I didn't do that. So I just kept on piling everything. And I think that would be the same. Like we've talked about it a lot. And I'm not saying by any means that's why I turned to it, but I'm saying that definitely adds as you're going through your life. Yeah. It doesn't help to try getting, you know what I mean? It just, I kept on hurting myself, and I was just, it's
an internal pressure, like he said too. I totally agree with that. There was no one pointing a finger at me saying, dude, what are you doing? You're not doing good enough. Like, do better. It was just me internalizing all this stuff around me for no reason, and then thinking that I'm screwing it all up, and I'm not. And it's a weird toxic mentality. This poor me attitude. If I can't do it, then why do anything? It's wild.
So after you guys started doing the pills, like how long does it take before you're in that like shitstorm tornado of I'm stuck?
I was gonna ask, when did you realize though, like when you stopped taking it, when were you like, oh crap, I don't feel right? I think I remember.
Oh yeah, if that's what you're asking, like I would remember that, like the first time I've ever like stopped taking it and I realized like withdrawals were coming and that I needed more. Yeah, that was a scary thought.
Can you tell us what that's like? Because like I genuinely have no clue.
Probably it took me a month or 2 months straight. I'll say 2 months, 60 days of everyday use until I couldn't get a connection from my friend anymore. And he was like, hey, I have to wait to get more. And I'm like, well, I need these. I want these. I need to be normal.
My body needs these.
Yeah, my body. And I didn't realize at the time that this was before withdrawals had came. So I was like, fine, no worries. Hit me up next week whenever you see your friend again. And he's like, cool. That night rolls around and I'm like starting to yawn. My eyes are watering uncontrollably. My back hurts. I can't sit up straight. And my mom's even like, dude, I sounded stuffy. She's like, are you sick? Like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like I got hit by a truck. Like, I really don't know what's going on here. And so I stayed home for 3 days, just sicker. It got worse each day. On the third day, bathroom was like hard to use, like like weird stuff. I wasn't sleeping. I was sweating through my sheets. I had no appetite. I could hardly have enough energy to hop in the shower, and I'm a very OCD.
And you thought you were sick.
I was like,
you didn't really put this together yet.
I thought I was getting sick. My mom thought I was getting sick, and I just had the chills. Like, I honestly didn't know. And so when my buddy that same week came back and was like, hey, saw my friend, I got some more, like, let me get you those. And I met up with him, was like, cool. And I even told the guy, I was like, I've been feeling like shit, man. Like, I don't know what's going on with me. And he's like, well, I got what you need, and laughed. And I was like, I don't think so, bro. It hasn't been that long. And he gave me the pills. I took 2, and sure enough, what a feeling I had after those 3 days. I was walking on sunshine, and I was so happy and so sad at the same time, because in that moment I knew I was like, I need this now. I can't. It's not just for fun anymore. Like to function, to talk, to feel like a member of society. This has to be in my body. So
wow.
And that's why you go to these great lengths that you go through.
Grandiose.
That's why you start committing crimes, stealing from your parents. And while all this is happening, your mind isn't right. Like you're not thinking the same. You're not the same person at all. And so that's kind of, then those become habits if you do them long enough, and it just becomes your daily life.
You realize that you have like a need. You're like, wow, I need to get my fix. And at what point do you start committing crimes, or like start stealing, or start doing these things? Do you just like not have the money to get it, or do you not have a source, or how does that happen?
Yes. Yes to both. For me, and I'll let Bryson answer this on his own, but it was my friend running out of stuff, and then me hearing from another guy like, hey, have you ever tried black tar? And I said no, and he's like, well, it's 3 times cheaper and it lasts twice as long. You should try that instead. And so I was like, I never thought of myself as someone who would ever consider doing heroin in my life. I've heard about heroin. I heard about the horror stories, my mom, like all that stuff. And for the first time in my life, someone said like, hey, we should do heroin. And it was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And I didn't know where it came from. It shifts your mind ever so slightly every day to make you this different person. And so speaking to that, that's how I tried the other harder substances, but also my crimes came first. It was losing my job. It was being addicted to pills, not showing up for my serving shift at the restaurant, losing my job, running through my last paycheck, still living at home, and saying, as a 19, 20-year-old, saying like, well, what do I do for money now? And I learned a lot of ways I could scam to get money and steal and rob. Yeah, it's going to sound stupid.
We need
at one
to know
point,
more.
I prided myself on slimy ways to get money and to trick people out of money and stores out of money. I studied it. I had systems for it. I showed people how to do it. It was crazy.
That's what you do as an addict every day. That's all you do for work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, instead of going to your 9 to 5, we get up, it's like, let's hit a few Home Depots, let's do some returns at Walmart, let's check a few cars in this really fancy neighborhood.
Because you need that drug at that time.
Yeah.
Just like people take work at 9 o'clock in the morning. For us, it was, I need that foil or needle at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we knew our routine, and we were religious to that routine. Like, we would not miss it. And that's why, like I would be out of money all the time. I remember my dad, I was super close with my dad, always helping him at a super young age. So he went through a lot when I went in and got into drugs. But my dad's the type of guy that doesn't like banks either. So I scored, right? I literally would just go into his safe and take out hundreds. And I remember, I think I calculated it was like $10,000, and that was just that one time, that 1 year, you know?
Wow.
And so it does, it changes you, and it shifts your mind where that becomes okay to the point where you can struggle that. I struggle today in society. I mean, sometimes, it's easy when you're at Walmart, the line is out the door and you're just trying to get this one item. You want to run out real quick, and I remember all these sneaky tasks, like he was saying, we planned it. And so that's when it comes to tests, it's like, hey, no, I'm good. I'm going to sit here. I'm normal. I'm a normal human to society and everything. And so, it's just, it's crazy what drugs can do to your mind though.
So for you, Bryson, what was the first time that, well, actually, how long did it take for you? You were taking pills until you tried like the needle?
I'll answer your first question first. I remember that you were going to detox from it, and it was hell. I did not know how horrible that really was. My friend, he went through it before me, and my experience was my parents caught me, and it was either get out of the house or come inside and detox. And I already knew, like I said, that it was hell, but I did not expect it to be deathly hell. And I remember my dad put this liner on the bed because he knew I was going to be sweating and stuff. And I basically just sweated out. They locked me in the room, not like physically or anything, but it was totally up to me. It was, you either leave or do this. And I did it. And I remember, I think like I lasted 4 days. So like after the initial
so this addiction
3,
is like real. It's
and I was
unlike
literally
anything you've ever can experience.
I would go to my sister's window on a 2-story window. I would pay someone $40 that lived a mile away to drive and throw me my pills. And then I'd get the foil out and I would do it. And then they would end up smelling it. And then I would be shipped into a rehab or something like that. But yeah.
Wow. So when you say pills and foil, so I'm guessing you're taking the pills and then you were burning them? Mm-hmm. Is that what black tar is?
Kind of.
Yeah, same thing. You're burning it just like you would a pill. A pill you put on the foil and burn it. Black tar is, and the reason they call it black tar is it looks just like black tar.
Okay, so they are different
it's
things.
Like hard clay. Yeah, you drop it on there and you just do this exact same thing. Or you break the pill up and burn it up in some water and heat and boils together, and you syringe it up and shoot it in your vein. I mean, you can do that either with pills or heroin or whatever too.
So after your parents caught you, you detox. 4 days later, you get back on it. Were you able to kind of hide it?
It wasn't really a detox. Like anyone that knows the process, like a detox is, when you're on it for a while, a detox it takes 30 days sometimes.
Oh shit! No
physical withdrawals, it could be a week or 2 weeks depending on where you're at and what you're using. With me, the physical withdrawals would last about 5 days. I made it 3 days in, and I started using again. So I wouldn't call that, a little break or whatever, but this was just constant with my parents, right? And this is how it was. And then I went to a program and that's just kind of that was my first experience though, detoxing. I remember it was hell. I wanted to go to the hospital so bad, but if you go to the hospital, they might or might not give you something to ease the pain. Back then, now they don't at all. But so my parents didn't want me to do that. They just wanted me to go through it to learn. But I didn't even make it halfway through before I started using again.
So I would imagine at some point you guys both, your family gets really sick of this. They're like, we need you to stop. You're not stopping. And inevitably you get kicked out. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was that like?
Scary.
Scary. No, it is. And this was after my high school experience. A lot of my high school years were building up this addiction, and kind of from 19 to my early 20s was when this really wreaked havoc on my life. And so my parents were letting me stay with them during that time. And my mom, being the, Southern supportive helicopter mom that she was, really, without her knowledge, was enabling me to do some of these things. And it was not her fault. And I was not honest with her with what I was doing, but she was just supporting me. And then when she found out how I was taking advantage, like how Bryson mentioned with the safe and taking stuff from his parents, my parents love banks, but what they also love is expensive stuff. And so I would go in their closet. I would go to like Plato's Closet. I would take my dad. This is back. Buckle era was really cool. All the stitched jeans. I don't know how old you are. I'm 30. So like,
yeah,
I remember all the buckle clothing, the mechs, the big stars. And that was the rage. Each pair of jeans was $150. And I went into my dad's closet, withdrawing, and took 10 pairs of his jeans, 2 pairs of his shoes, a watch. And I went and sold it all. And something I'll never regret. Or no, something that I will always regret, rather. something I'll never
wow.
regret. No, my mom
Hopefully
gave
Dad
me,
doesn't see this.
It's just one of those, every dope fiend's got a story like this, but my mom had gifted me a gold pinky ring. I love jewelry. And so she gave me the gold promise ring that that she had gave my father when they were going to get married. And I pawned it for $80. And you just can't get stuff like that back, Yeah. You really can't. So, but yeah, so when she found out about all the other stuff I took from the home, I went out on a little bender with my friends. We stayed out late, and I came home to all of my stuff in the driveway, and they were waiting.
Damn.
Yeah, and so I came home. I tried to open the door. Everything was locked. They knew I was home, so they came down and they had the moment. And they said, "Logan, we know what's going on. We're not stupid. We noticed a lot of stuff missing from our closet and living room today. And if you don't have all that with you right now, we are not letting you back inside this house. We've removed your personal property and clothing that you have left that you haven't sold, and we've put it here in the driveway for you. We have to separate from this toxicity. We know you don't have a job. We know you don't have anywhere to go, but you're also a grown man, and we're not gonna support this." And so that was a really hard pill to swallow. Me being high out of my mind at the time on heroin, feeling really good, I said, "You can go fuck yourself. I'll take all my stuff, and I will go figure this out without you. And when I die in a gutter somewhere, this will be your fault, and you'll remember this day." And that was what I told them, and I walked away. And I regret that, and I have since apologized about that moment, and it's something that they remember. But yeah,
well,
it
and
was.
I feel like you have to have grace for yourself in those moments, looking back too, because you were not in the right. You were not you.
Not exactly, but yeah, I just still feel. So much time has passed, and I am best friends with my parents again, so it just breaks my heart that I could have done something like that to them.
Yeah, that's understandable. That pain hits deep.
It really does, but it feels good now to be on track. And they were just in town this last weekend. We went to dinner with them. They saw our new place, and so to have that relationship today, for it to have come to fruition again, and them to give me trust again, it's amazing. It really is.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you? Yeah. What about you, Bryson? What was it like when your family was finally like, get out?
My first, it happens quite a bit. I'm sure it's happened more than just once, but my first time experiencing that, and like I said, I was telling Logan, it was a scary process for me. I fell out of my parents' house. They were basically done. They felt like they did something wrong. They tried everything. I think I went to 2 programs at that time, and they ended up kicking me out, and I moved in with my grandparents. And I took them for a roller coaster just as bad as my parents. Same thing, still in the cars in the middle of the night, using the drugs in the room, in the house. And I remember we had it was a big family party. And we had them every Sunday, family events. And of course, I couldn't just not use that hour, right? I remember I snuck in the garage, and I was using my dad's toolbox. You pull out the drawer and move some tools, and there was my foil and my setup, and I'd pull that out, and I would get at, and I would just hit 2 hits or so and go in. And I remember doing that, and my brother turned the corner right then. I didn't realize he was in the other garage or whatever it was, and he saw me. And I remember asking him, I was like, please don't tell mom and dad. And anyways, he ended up telling mom and dad. He told everyone, and it was a big scene. Same thing as Logan explained. When it came down to the time of my grandparents and parents at the door telling me, here's your bag, you're gone. I remember telling them they're going to regret this. I'll show them, that whole attitude. That night, I ended up staying the night at the couch in the sports center at the Suncoast. And I stayed there for a week, I think. And then I ended up finding a friend. But yeah, that was an eye-opener. Not a big enough one for me to change quite yet. But no. It was a very scary process for sure.
I want to get into the nitty-gritty with this. I know that
Nice.
I would say all the listeners, here and there have heard of people with addictions, oh, you hear this, you hear that, but you never really get into the nitty-gritty. And I want to hear some stories. I want to hear what it's like. I want to hear how awful it gets, because I think sometimes it can be glamorized, but the shit you guys have went through is awful.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'll
go ahead.
I'll
kick
take
us
it
off, brother.
on
Kick us off.
You want to hear a story?
Let's
I'm
hear
sure.
about it, man. Come on.
I remember this was, I would say I was in the middle of my addiction. Remember, it's off and on, off and on. I was hanging out with a friend of mine. I was kicked out of the house, and we were staying at a La Quinta Inn at the time.
Gotta love La Quintas.
Yeah.
Classy joint there.
Cheap, super cheap. That's why. And I could usually scam them. I guess
Scam
I'll
them?
tell you how
Yeah,
and
what
why
does
I
that
scam them,
mean?
and that's why I was staying there. I would basically check in, and then the next night or whatever it is, we would pay for a few nights, and we'd get a feel of how the hotel is operating. Okay. Learn the staff a little bit and know what we can, because usually they have rooms that are under like construction. And when I say under construction, it could be something that was broke,
like renovations,
something really stupid. And a lot of times what we do is we'd rent a room for the night. I'd break something in it, like the AC, right, or whatever, and it's winter at the time, so you can open up a window. That's out of commission, right? So when we leave that door, we'd prop it or get it where we could prop it open or re-prop it open, check out, and then sit on it for a few hours, and then we have a night free or a week free if you want to gamble it. And if you don't care if someone walks in on you and you just tell them to fuck off and you leave or whatever,
that's wild.
But we usually had guns and drugs in the room, so we didn't really want to bring that attention. But anyways, with the story, I just bought this car. I remember from Utah, I drove it to Vegas, and that's where I was at, is in Vegas. I remember I would put my suit on, the suit I went to church with every Sunday. I'd put that on looking really sharp and like a citizen,
Like a real person.
Yeah, like a real person. I would go into Wells Fargo like a real person, and I would listen as I'm on the phone. Like I'm literally acting like I'm on the phone, but really I'm listening with this other ear on what's going on. You would be shocked on how many people take $60,000 out for a car or for this. Anyways, I found my next victim. And it was an old lady, unfortunately. It still messes with me to this day. But anyway, she ended up coming out, and I already knew she was my target. I got in my car, and you kind of play it like, I never wanted to like hurt people. Like I never was like, I'm going to shoot someone or anything like that. I never wanted to, at least, hurt people. But after everything, that's all I've done. But I remember she came out of the bank and she was walking to her car. I drove my car literally on the side of her. I rolled down my window and I grabbed her purse, because that's the only place she could put it, right? She's an old lady with a purse. So I basically just drove by and grabbed it and took off. And yeah, I ended up paying a lot of time for that crime. But that's just one story. I remember.
How'd you get caught?
Did you get caught for that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did that
time
happen?
That one, and it was another one. So it was the same bank, and that's why they got me with both of these.
Oh.
So it was the same bank, and it was a different day or different month. It was this guy, and his business, what I've learned was his business was filling ATM machines. That's what he did for a living. He owned about 10 of them, I think. After I got my discovery, I realized what he did, right? But to me, it was just a guy taking out $40,000 in 20s. So I was like, but I liked it. So I kind of picked up on his routine. He would do this routine, right? And I knew if
So you were
I
like
waited
stalking
it,
him kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally. Stalking him.
Yeah.
I followed him all the way home and did a home invasion.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I totally
like break
did.
down the door, home invade, or like what does
So-
that look like?
Yeah, I guess a home invasion would be break down the door and go in. I didn't do that. I knocked on the door, and
You knocked.
I knocked on the door, and I asked the guy if the car in the driveway was his, even though it was. And I told him I hit it. There's a little dent into it. Da 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 da. Anyways, anything to get him out. Once I got him out there, and I knew he didn't have anything, I literally zapped him on the side of the neck.
With a taser?
With a taser.
No
Yeah.
fucking
Fucking
way.
zapped him on the side of the neck with a taser. He went down. I just took off into the house, and I knew what I was looking for. He had a briefcase, and I didn't give him any time. So right when he got home and I saw he went in the garage, closed the garage, I went and knocked because I knew it was either going to be in his car or in the briefcase, which I already saw him carry it inside. So he couldn't have gotten far. Mm-hmm. So I knew what I was looking for. Grab it, run. So I ended up doing my time on those ones. But yeah, there's a story for you.
Damn, that is wild.
Yeah, it was
Wild. The
it's
taser
sad,
is what
but
really
it was
got
crazy.
me. No, yeah, it's very sad. But
And that's
can I
what I'm
ask?
saying. You'll change your mindset, just changes. You're not the same person. You ask anyone to this day,
Yeah.
even you know me, you're my cousin.
Yeah.
I have the biggest heart in my family, and I truly
really do.
believe that for myself. Like, I do. I care for others, and even the company I work for. Like, and so it's so not me, but that just gives you a sense of what these drugs can do to you.
Well, and it sounds like just from hearing your guys' perspective on this and hearing these stories, like the drug itself carries so much evil energy. Like it's not like cannabis or mushrooms or acid or something like that
Which
it's
are great
coming
things on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
I mean,
are very
they're
positive
done.
things. No, they are. I'm serious. The holistic medicine, I am all over that stuff today. But yeah, it is way different than that kind of stuff.
A balance
Yeah.
too.
Absolutely.
So what about you, Logan? Like what is some like what's
Give
the
us some
Some
grimy
tales from the
thing?
streets.
In your,
Yeah, some
in your
pills from the
deep
street.
addiction.
I mean, oh God, there's so many. All right, I got a story for you. So this was you motherfucker. So this story is actually at the tail end of my addiction before I did my last stint doing time and before I met Bryson. I was living in Prescott, Arizona at the time. I was in Phoenix causing a lot of havoc, and my parents had sent me to rehab in Prescott to get away, go up north, get treatment, meet new people.
Your parents lived in Phoenix?
Yeah, so this was when I was in high school, like right. So what we talked about earlier with the bags, all that stuff. I went on the streets for a while, stayed with my girlfriend, did that, slept in parking garages, managed to keep getting high surprisingly through donations.
Wait,
my
you were
friends.
sleeping in parking garages?
So get this, and this makes no sense. I was living in Gilbert. My parents, do pretty okay for themselves. We had a nice house. I elected after that night with the bags. I took all my stuff and had my buddy drive me down to Camelback Road, and I stayed at like I think it was like 43rd Street in Camelback. I was in a parking garage in the hood, and I just set up a blanket with my little bag, and I was like, well, this is home now. And I hopped on my skateboard, I did some meth, and I went to work. And I was going to go find some cars
going to work.
I was skating around at 12 at night, 3 at night, checking car doors, going into any little room I could that would open, going into Target, grabbing anything of value and sprinting out. I mean, it was wild. This story is something that does haunt me, and it just shows, like Bryson said in the last clip, he's an emotional good guy. You know him, he's family.
Yeah.
These drugs, these substances, they really do alter your perception and how you think and feel, and you have no idea. I think of myself the same way. I'm a caring person to a fault. I love my friends. I love people. I hate to see harm being done to people. But at the end of this, so after I'd made it up to Prescott, it was called Decision Point Center, and this was a therapeutic live-in rehab that we would do therapy. So this was the therapy. I've tried every approach, 12-step, religious, and therapy.
Right.
And so this was my first approach, and this happened to be therapy. And so they packed up all my shit. We drove the 2.5, 3 hours up north past Flag to Prescott, this tiny, desolate, old school town up in the forest. Like, you got to see Main Street in Prescott. It is like a small cowboy nothing town. And so perfect place to get sober, though. Perfect change for me. Perfect to be out of my element.
Middle
right?
of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. Middle of fucking nowhere. Like, old people go up there to retire. It is just a weird little city. And so I do rehab. We do all that. Graduate. Things go well. I don't know if this is your experience, Bryson, but when you go and do time or you go to rehabs, you end up leaving with more dirty tricks than you came in with.
Absolutely.
So
No way.
You meet people, you talk to people who have been doing it years longer than you have, and they're like, "Wait, you've been doing this? You should try doing it this
way out."
Yeah.
Oh
and
my
so,
gosh. That's like when I hear about prison too. It's like you go in coming out smarter than you went.
No, it's true. It's the craziest cycle. That's why it's a trap. That's the spider web tattoo. You get caught in the web, you never leave the web, you just get worse. And so you just keep going back.
Yep.
Anyway, so I go to this program. I meet some real hardcore addicts. At the time, I hadn't used a needle yet. I was smoking heroin, smoking meth on foil. And so that can be it's an animal in and of itself. But John, we'll call him John. He's a friend of mine, and I met him in this program. We were really good buddies, and he had been doing it longer than me. He used a needle and had all these crazy stories. And after we had both graduated and this other guy, we decided that it'd be a good idea to get a place together. We like similar stuff. He was from Denver. We like the same music, same fashion sense, so it was just cool to have a guy my age that I could connect with, and we could do stuff like that, meet girls, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we get this, townhome. We're living in Prescott with these guys. And I remember coming home from work one day, and John was upstairs already, and his light was on, so I went up to check on him. And I opened his door, and he acted like really like sus. Like he turned away and was hiding something from me, obviously. And I was like, whoa, what do you got there, man? Like, what's going on? And he looked like his face was red, or almost he'd been crying. And so I sat down and was like, hey, man, so what's going on? And he told me that he'd found out that this chick he'd been seeing, was messing around behind his back. He had just learned about it today after work. And he doesn't know why he did it, but he found someone from his old contact list and went and picked up heroin, basically. And he opened his hand and showed me, and it was in a little baggie. It was a little rock, like a dub worth, $30 worth. And he was like, I plan on doing this, man. I just feel shitty and alone, and I don't care what you think about it. I'm going to do it. And I was like, cool. No, hey, it's your choice. And then I asked him if I could do some with him. I don't know what came over me. I was like, well, I'm not going to let you do it by yourself. I'll do it with you. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah, let's do it together. And then he whipped out a syringe. And this was my first. I always told myself, I was one of those heroin addicts that was like, I'll never use a needle. I do heroin,
me
but
too.
I don't use a needle. I'm better than that.
Yeah.
And so he whips it out, shows it to me, and I'm immediately like, no, this isn't cool. But he's like, relax. You save money. It's a better feeling. If you talk to anyone, and I'll attest to it, it is. It's insane. But I tried it for the first time, the needle, with him that day, and it changed everything. I never went back to smoking it again. There was no other comparison to it. For people that have done it, they know. Once you cross that bridge, there's no going back. It's heaven in a bottle. If you could imagine what heaven would feel like in a concentrated way that you could put inside of your body, that is that feeling. It is ultimate bliss, walking on sunshine, nirvana. I don't know how else to describe it. Huh?
It's too good to be true.
It really is.
It's
and you
unnatural.
feel it. It washes away all of your worries and anxiety and fear. It is insane. So I try it with him. I have a great experience. I do, a tiny, tiny amount, and it rocks me. And I'm like, wow, if I could have been doing this the whole time, I would have saved so much money. And he's like, exactly. And so from then on, we were off to the races, and it took a very dark turn in that house. And the poor guy on the bottom floor just really had no clue. He was starting to dabble again with cannabis and whatnot. Normal stuff, playing video games, going out.
Yeah.
No idea what was
No
happening
clue.
upstairs.
And me and John are upstairs, like huddled over in his back room, just getting high.
Yeah.
And so this goes on. After we both did it together that one night, we both kind of looked at each other and knew, like, we're not going to be sober anymore. Like, we're going to go on a run. And so we do. And like Bryson said earlier, I love anything that I can make money on. And so in my life and experience as a drug addict, I was also always a drug dealer. I found that if I surrounded myself with the things I want to put into my body, I always have them. And so if I can have people coming to me for it, I'll never run out.
Yeah.
So that's the stance I took. That's what I was familiar with before. But this time with John, this addiction took a new step with the needle. And so I told him I still had contacts in Phoenix. I could get us a, ounce, pound, quarter pound of dope today. If I make a call to this guy, he knows me well enough and he knows how much money I spend. We could go and get as much as we want and start a little operation. He loved this idea. And so he said, make the call. I'll drive us down to Phoenix. He had the car at the time. He's like, I'll drive the 2.5 hours. We'll go and it'll be a business venture. And that's exactly what we did. We drove down, saw my old buddy, got everything. It was super strong, super pure stuff. We drove back, and before we got back home, we stopped at a smoke shop, bought bags, bought a scale, everything we needed to
start selling.
Just open up a small business. And
Yeah.
So
Business for the streets.
yeah, a small business for the streets. And so we got, after we had all of our stuff, we went back to the house, and I started telling everyone, and this is where the story gets a little icky. I would do a lot of HA meetings. In fact, I ran an Heroin Anonymous meeting in town.
Nice.
Yeah. And so after the meeting, I knew when the meeting started and when the meeting ended. And so my buddy John and I drove up to the meeting after it was over, when people would talk and smoke cigarettes in the parking lot. And there's a lot of people in that meeting that we both know. A lot of newcomers that are weak and that are just new into sobriety, that are just hanging on by a thread.
You targeted them.
Oh, yeah. I knew how I could make my money back in 2 days, and that's what we did. We would pull up to these meetings, these support groups for people struggling, needing help. And I would be that skis bag guy around the corner like, hey, you trying to get high? I got good stuff in my car. You want to try it first? Come sit in my car. I got some. Come with me. It worked every time. And they see me. I'm, at the time didn't have all the tattoos. I'm not a scary looking person. So they saw me and they're like, oh, this guy's not going to hurt me. Like, okay. And so we would get him in the car. We'd give him some for free. I would make them give me their number, and then I would follow up with them the next day. And then we would build the clientele from there.
Yeah.
And so I used my ins with the meetings and the ins with the AA, HA, NA community to sell my dope. And sad to say, as things spiraled, we kept targeting people. Newcomers would come over to my house to buy stuff and to use. And so what started becoming a common occurrence was overdosing in my house. People would come in, try my dope, which was great dope.
Too good.
Too good. But people would try it, and they would also do the whole needle thing. And my buddy John was all about, what a great guy he is, giving everyone a syringe and being like, try it this way. And so there were a few instances where we had some people pass out in my bathroom, right? And so we'd have to wake them up, throw cold water. Most of the time they'd get up and they'd leave, and we'd make them leave because it was a bad look. All these, sleepy, sluggish people walking in and out of my house 24/7 is not good.
Yeah.
So the story that I'm thinking about was, I'm trying to not get all weird. So this kid Dallas, right? He was in the rooms. He was a good friend. I went to treatment with him at that program. He unfortunately was one of the people that we had gotten a hold of when we were going to these meetings. And he was very shaky with his recovery always. He just hadn't gotten there yet with himself to want to truly change. I mean, I say that as I'm pulling him back out. And so he became one of our regulars, and he would come and get stuff from us all the time. And I just remember the last time I saw him, he came to my house. He needed his usual order, 0.5 gram of dope, and he wanted to use the bathroom, and then he'd be on his way. And so, fine with me. Come in, you got the cash, whip-de-wham. He pays me. He goes to my downstairs bathroom, and I'm just on the couch, playing video games with my roommate, John, who we were doing the business together. We didn't have day jobs at the time. All we did was sell. So we just watched TV, got high, and sat in that living room all day.
Waiting for customers. And we were already so messed up, right? Like we were out of it at this point, like drooping, like nodding out on the couch. And so I think we were watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I had fallen asleep. Like I remember like nodding down, and I like snapped to him. I was like, "Whoa, what?" And he was asleep. I was like, "John, what time is it? How long were we out?" It's been like an hour and a half, right? And I still hear the sink water running in the bathroom.
Oh, fuck.
So I'm like, "Oh shit." I pound on the door. I'm like, Dallas, like open the door, and it's locked. And so no response. I see a shadow kind of on the floor. I'm like, "Oh no." He must have fallen out in there. And I've given CPR, sad to say, probably 10 times to people overdosing around me. Put them on their back, give them CPR, breathing into their mouth, all kinds of stuff. Narcan. So John and I kicked the door down. Dallas is on the floor, and he's blue. Not breathing. And we just drag him out and put him on the curb. And then call the cops and leave the house and say, "We don't know what's going on. There's some guy passed out front of our home. Can you come pick him up?" They said, sure. They sent an ambulance, and sad to say, he was dead. So he passed away in that bathroom. And that was the last time, unfortunately, we ever saw Dallas again. And that, I mean, I don't know. Had I not been so fucked up out of my mind or what have you, I could have caught that or helped in any way, or I don't know. But that feeling of just knowing like this dude's blue, he was cold, and we just put him outside with the trash, and they picked him up. So that's something that a story I'll share if I ever do go to meetings. But definitely an icky feeling.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story. I'm sure that was tough to even say.
No worries.
Damn. Wow. I'm like a little
and you
speechless
actually,
right
the crazy part of that whole thing is you get used to that, of people dying. So my best friend, Darren, his name's Darren. Just to give you a little background, he's one of the guys that went through the program with us. He came in the program, I think, 4 days apart from me. And granted, just to give you a little background, the program is a 2-year-long inpatient recovery program. It's called the John Vulcan Academy. And this is both of our last program that we ended up going to. Yeah. So it's 2 to 5 years, actually. I guess I should say that. It could be 2 minimum, 5 maximum is kind of the structure. I ended up getting into the program. It's where I met Logan. We kicked it off great. And there was 60 guys in this program, and we actually started bringing in girls towards the end of my program. But 60 guys in there. And it's actually self-ran through and with the guys.
Like the students.
Yeah, the students.
Okay.
We call ourselves students. So as they advance through the 5 different phases, they get more responsibilities, whether that is taking care of the ranch. So it's on a, how many acres? 60-acre ranch. And we had 120 head of horses that we were taking care of. So that was the therapeutic behind it, was taking care of the horses, cleaning up their shit and feeding them. That was the therapeutic behind it that would get us to change, along with intensive group meetings, and that was just internal with us. Anyways, I built a great relationship with Darren, and he lived here locally. He was from Arizona. He has a couple children and stuff. But anyways, we hit it off great. He was my best friend through the program. We were coming up on our first year, so that was super exciting because we finally get to see our families for the first time. And let me just tell you, the whole year that, at least for me, and I can only speak for myself, that first year I did not take serious. I was bullshitting that just like I do every fucking program that I've ever gone to. So I didn't take it serious. So when me and Darren were joking as we were feeding the horses, and what was just a simple joke about stealing the safe down at the feed store, that holds all the money
for rodeos and events.
Rodeos, events,
Okay.
and you're
Store
talking
the customer cash down there.
thousands of
thousands
dollars.
and thousands at one time.
Yeah. So it ended up being a joke, and I remember this joke ended up going on for 3 days. So from what was a joke really happened 3 days later. So me and Darren, like I said, we were joking about stealing this safe, and we knew it was full of cash because we just had a rodeo. And so we it was 10 o'clock at night, and everything was very structured at the program. Lights out, 9 o'clock. All lights out, 9 o'clock.
Yep.
I think 10:30 rolled around. He was waiting in the laundry room for me. I don't think I've ever told this story to anybody either. But anyways, yeah, you guys are lucky.
I'm in for a treat.
So anyways, we ended up being in the laundry room, and we were dressed in all black. We thought we were so cool and shit. Anyways, we ended up leaving, and where we were housed to the store was a walk. You had to walk past a lot of horses and animals and stuff. So we ended up walking down there, and we ran everything. So a student of ours had the key to get in the door, but we didn't decide to go that route. We said we were going to break down the door so it looked like it was a robbery, right? And the whole idea behind this, let me just tell you where the joking started, was we were going to rob the John Vulcan Academy, hide the money, and continue to go through the program. Because as you get laddered through your program, as you go through the different phases, you get more and more responsibilities, where at your last 2 phases, you get to leave property for a little bit and you can spend your own money. Logan was a year ahead of me, so he was almost graduating at that time. And I was watching him, and he was going out, hanging out with new people, getting to know women. And so I wanted to be on that level. Or when I got there, I wanted to be able to take care of people money, and have a phone and all this thing. So that was the whole idea behind it, was let's stay back, and we'll just say it was a robbery or whatever. So we ended up getting down there, and that was the whole thing. We were going to go through the program. We ended up getting down there. We ended up breaking in the door, and I remember right when we smashed that door, my blood started going, and I haven't felt this for a very long time. That's when I realized, and this is when my life really started turning and changing, is after this point. Without this, I don't think I would have ever changed or been where I am today, or even have my daughter. But basically, I remember it still this day. The blood started flowing. And that's what I realized. I was more addicted to that than I was to the drug. Literally, I was more addicted to that rush than I was to the drug. And anyone that knows me, I love, I get high off of that rush. So I remember that. And anyways, I had Darren. I remember he just picked up this safe, and it was a big safe, and he's a big dude.
Darren was a really big man.
Monster dude.
Like 230?
Yeah.
6'3"?
Yeah.
Big man.
Oh, damn.
So he just carried the safe, and I was laughing. And the feed store, you're on a big acre, and it's all open. And he had to run across all this dirt, and we were hiding the safe in the main barn with the horses, is where we were going to hide it. So he's running, and it was just it was the scene, basically. But anyways, if you can imagine anyone running with a safe and it's half their size, it's just pretty funny. But anyways, so we ended up getting to the barn, and we were like, where do we hide this? We ended up hiding it on top of the bathroom. So inside this barn, there was a little built bathroom. And that was the only platform there was in there that we could even throw it up on top of or anything. So we had to get some chairs. He threw it up there. And then we got hay, and we just threw a bunch of hay up there. So if anyone looked, they would think it was where hay was being stored. Nobody would have gone up there. Yeah. So we ended up doing that. We went to bed. Next morning came around, and Logan can remember that morning.
I remember this morning.
Everyone. It was, the cops were called. It was a scene. John Vulcan,
uproar.
The owner, was flying into town. It was, yeah. It was funny. Me and him thought it was funny, me and Darren. And I remember it was the day 2, and this is all the gossip. Everyone's
like,
talking
who
about
did
it.
this? Who do you think did it?
Yeah. Is it an inside job? Is it not? Nobody knew.
Yeah.
Then 2 nights pass, and Darren tells me, he's like, I'm out of here. He's like, fuck this place. And I'm like, whoa, bro, if you leave, I'm fucked. Because, like, what are you doing? He's like, I'll come back. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to come back? You're going to leave and come. I just wasn't processing. He didn't care. And if you know addicts, instant gratification is everything. That is it. So, and that's all he wanted. He wanted hookers and drugs. And that was his thing. Hookers.
Yeah.
He loved women of the night. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so we ended up going down there, and I remember it was that night we ended up splitting the money. I remember taking my money and I taped it up in a big ball and I went and hit it.
Do you know how much it was? What was the split?
It was $9,000 each, I think. $9,000.
You definitely have fun with $9,000.
Absolutely. One night,
Yeah.
2 nights,
Two
I think
nights.
is
And
what
at this
he
point,
ended
no
up.
one knows it's you. Like,
No one
you're
knows
not
it's
caught.
us. Yeah.
They know
So-
something is happening, and I think if I remember right, they knew that. I think everyone thought it was a student or something like that, or someone
Yeah.
associated with the ranch
Yeah.
to know where they leave it. But go ahead.
So, and we told nobody. Like, Logan was one of my
Oh,
best
I
friends.
even asked
He
him
did
about it. I
not
was like,
know.
crazy shit, right? And he's like, yeah, who'd have
Fuck-
thought? And it was like,
fuck them.
All right. My roommate at the time was Darren. I lived with Darren for a year in one of our dorm rooms, and he didn't say a word to me, and we talked every night.
Yeah.
So-
So anyways, he ended up leaving. I thought it was going to fuck me. Anyways, I was like, hopefully he leaves and overdoses and dies. I remember thinking that. That's how twisted, you know?
Yeah.
And granted, I'm a year clean and my mind's still not right because I would never think that, like, to this
Yeah.
day, right?
Yeah.
So, but I remember thinking that. Anyways, he left, and I think 2 days pass, and the student that's running kind of the facility, his name's Corey. And I was super close with him. I was welding. That was my duties. My job is I was welding with him on the trailers. And I remember him saying, that was Darren. He's coming back. My heart sunk. I said, this is going to put a wrench into my program. What is he going to say? Like, how is he going to say? I didn't know what he was going to say. He's twisted. He's high. So he can say anything. So I didn't want to get it. I didn't want it to get
Or,
ahead
like,
of
him
me.
blame you.
To mess
Yeah,
you up.
so
yeah.
I
Yeah.
got ahead of it, or I thought I got ahead of it. I said, Corey, I was a part of that. And instantly he walked me in the student center, put me in the conference room, and I remember sitting there for 8 hours because John Vulcan was flying into town from Canada. And he wanted to talk to me. And because there's a lot going on. Darren's on his way back. I'm in the room, possibly on my way out.
He left that. So that second day, he did leave.
Darren left. Yeah, Darren
'cause you
left.
split it. You told
we
me that.
Split
Yeah, you
it.
split
He
it. Right.
left
So
and
he
did
left.
his thing. It was 2 days that passed. I finally got word Darren was coming back. Okay.
And so you decided to come clean.
I came
Right.
clean.
Well,
I came
Okay.
clean. Okay. It was right around 5:00 ish when this all happened, PM. Dinner time was coming around. So all the students get in the student center. They're having dinner. They bring me my dinner plate in the conference room. I remember thinking, because I heard them on the call right outside of the door, and I thought I heard cops or something like that. That's a done deal for me. I went out the window, jumped out the window, ran across the street to where my money was hidden in the shop, Auto Body, or it was the new barn at the time. And I remember when I went in there, one of my other good buddies, Tyler Schulman, was just entering the bathroom. And he was on his way over for dinner. Well, my money was upstairs, so I had to go upstairs. I got it out of this closet, and I was going out. Well, right at the same time, another student was passing the door that I was going out. You got to remember, they all know that I should be in this room. Bryson has some sort of involvement, and it's all around. So I shouldn't be out by myself at all, right? So if they see me, it's red flags. So I grab my money, I go out, and you got to remember, we're on a big acre, like huge, and there's a rodeo going on. And I remember I ran through that rodeo to get out of town. Basically, I went through the therapy.
Oh, so you were just
barn.
like escape mode.
I was just gone. Yep. So I jumped walls. I kept on going. I didn't get far. There's a gas station probably
Right on the corner.
a quarter of a mile right there on the corner. I was in a bush at that gas station for about 12 hours. I remember
What?
sitting there as a helicopter was circling above the ranch and me.
I remember
So
this.
I literally, and I knew the helicopter was looking for me, and John Vulcan made sure they were going to find, like, he was like, make sure you get him kind of shit. And
That guy.
all the students,
Oh, he
I
is
remember,
that guy. We'll talk about him later.
I remember all the students, like Tyler, my friends, they were like, yeah, I remember I was looking out the window, the helicopter was going, like, fuck, you know, but it didn't have a light on and it was nighttime. So I knew they were doing heat signatures. So what I did is there's houses right there. I jumped into this guy's backyard, and I remember, because I couldn't, you got to think it was 9-10 o'clock at night. They had glass front doors and then a little pillar over their door with a light. So I knew I needed to get under that pillar with the light shining. There's no way they would pick me up. They would think, if anything, I'm just at that door. So that's what I did every time. It was doing big circles, right? Huge circles. So when it came right about me, I'd jump that wall and do the same thing. And then I'd go and hide. And I did that for a few hours. And cops were all around. I could see the traffic. I mean, there were
And you're still
cops.
sober during this point in time.
I was sober.
Yeah.
I was sober but high. Like, you know, when the
No,
rush starts happening,
it takes over
you're
your
done.
brain and you know what you're going to do. But that's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
crazy.
So I finally get into the gas station. You got to remember, I have a brick of cash with me.
Did you hide it at all, or are you just literally carrying around a brick of
No,
cash?
it was duct tape, so I'm just kidding. They don't know what it is.
So you
right?
just have a little duct tape baby of cash.
a wad of duct tape cash. Yeah.
Yep. So I go into the gas station, and I remember giving the guy $100 to let me use his cell phone, not the store phone, the cell phone. And I told him I'm running from the stupid program right up the street. I said, look, I know the cops are looking for me. The only reason they're looking for me is because the court system made me go to that program, and they made me complete it, but I don't want to complete it. Like, it's messed up, but I'm doing nothing wrong. That's it. He was like, dude, take my phone, go. And so I took his phone, and I remember calling an Uber. I did the whole Uber app, got an Uber, and got out of there. Once I was
Did he
out
take
of there,
the
I
money?
was good.
The $100?
Oh yeah, straight
Hell
up,
yeah,
he
you did.
took the money.
Working at Circle
Yeah.
K, he's like, I'll take that $100.
But I didn't take his phone. I gave it back to him. So
Okay,
then
good.
I went to Walmart. And I remember I bought 2 burner phones. I bought one, and it wasn't. I had to wait until like 6 in the morning to get it activated, and I was like, fuck. So I had a bunch of money. I bought another one, and that one ended up letting me do it right away. So I ended up doing it right away. I got my ride. I had money. I was good. I bought a prepaid debit card at Walmart, and I loaded, I think, like $1,000 onto it, because that's how I'm going to Uber, right?
Yeah.
Around. So, yeah, so that's kind of what I did, and I Ubered around, and I lasted, I think, a day, or it was 24 hours. I ended up calling my brother. They ended up saying, come home. I ended up going straight to get high, because I knew I was already on the run and everything. And to me, it's like, if I'm going to get locked up, I might as well enjoy it. Burn it down.
Yeah, burn it down.
So I went straight and got high. And so I got high, and then my parent, I was talking to my brother and stuff, and they ended up talking me into coming back to the program. So I ended up going back to the program. And
How did you not get like arrested from this, or did you not get caught?
So I'm getting there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I should have.
Didn't mean to jump
been
the gun.
arrested.
So yeah. So when I get back, is when everything kind of happens. Everything settled down. John Vulcan said, both of you guys, because he already figured out, and he asked the cops, he cannot charge one of us. It has to be both of us or none of us. Okay. Darren's back, and Darren's parents already paid
His reentry.
double of what he should pay. So he took $9,000, so they paid $20,000 just to have their kid, instead of going to jail, go back to the program, if that makes sense. So this all took place as I was kind of gone and as I was coming. So then John did the same thing to me. He said, your parents have to pay basically $20,000 or you're going to jail. And I didn't know at the time that the charging thing, like I just explained. So I had to call my parents, and that was probably the most saddest thing, hardest thing that I've ever had to do. I called them, and this is already after they paid $5,000-$6,000 for me to go to this program. Now I'm asking for $20,000. Yeah, I only took 9, but I'm having to ask for 18. You know, so double of the amount, which is just crazy.
A little unfair, if you ask me, but
but that's the guy that we're dealing with.
He's
driven by money.
It's not an eye for an eye; it's 2 eyes for 1 eye with this man.
Yep. And so, anyways, my parents, I think they ended up paying what they could, and that was just it. But he couldn't end up taking me to jail or anything like that. So it ended up being done. Me and Darren both restarted our programs. So we started as inductees. They took our clothes away. We got donated clothes given to us.
Shaved their heads.
They shaved our heads. They just made us like,
it's
we
like
were
the
at
bottom,
of the barrel.
Like
Yep.
you see the Full Metal Jacket opening scene where they like take your clothes from you, shave
Yeah.
your head. Like that's what they do. They humiliate you in the beginning to break you.
Yep.
So
So basically that's what happened. Me and Darren ended up going through the whole program all over again. So I ended up doing almost my 2 years. He fast tracked us a little bit here and there, but I think we were
what's your
2
total?
weeks. I don't know the total time, but we were 2 weeks from graduation. Me and Darren, we were in the same class. And I remember, and we had lots of responsibilities at the time. So just to speed you up, me and Darren, we stole the safe. We restarted our programs. We were about 14 months after restarting our program. We had the keys to the program. We were running the program. He was the program director. I was the ranch manager. So I did all the housekeeping as far as
Animals,
work, animals, anything like that.
tractors.
He did inside, making sure we did groups, things like that. So he was like the president. I remember Darren was kind of, and like I said, you have more responsibilities, and he was dating a girl at the time. And he was missing more than he should be, because you're only allowed to have so many hours of furlough time. And I was running the program, so we needed to keep each other accountable. And he was way over his allotted hours. And so I started looking into things, and we realized he was just doing his own thing, working his own job, everything doing. So we ended up finally getting a hold of him because he wasn't answering his phone. We ended up meeting him down at a coffee shop or something like that, and he relapsed. He was all fucked up, and he was crying, and granted, like, this is the first time I've ever dealt with like a best friend, a mentor, my peer, my coworker. I mean, he helped me through everything because we were running the program together, and he just relapsed. But what he was asking of me was to let him come back to the program and not say anything. And I did. Out of everything I was taught in the program and everything, I did. I let him come back, and I didn't tell anyone. There's one person that knew, and that was my other friend, Braylon. He came with me and stuff, and we ended up keeping it kind of a hush-hush thing, and we were going to deal with this the next morning or figure out what we do. All I told him is, I said, give me your car keys, give me your phone. I said, I'll monitor these. You're done. We're going to get you all cleaned up. And he said it was just that one time. Like, he had all this excuse and da-da-da. Anyways, we went to bed that night, and I remember Bray coming to wake me up in a panic, telling me Darren's dead. I was like, what? What are you talking about? No, he's not. So ended up going upstairs. And you got to remember this guy's, he's a big dude. And he wasn't like pale yet. So, and granted, we dealt with this all late at night. It was like 1 o'clock. So I was still in disbelief. Like, how is this even possible? He wasn't that fucked up. I have his truck keys. I locked his truck. Where would he have gotten it? We're on this huge ranch, like in the middle of nowhere. Like, he couldn't have had it dropped off. Like, so confused, right? Cause I had all my T's crossed, my I's dotted. He was good. Anyways, I get up to the room, and he's cold, and I just went into a panic. I froze. I knew he was dead. I remember knowing right away. And I told Bray to call the paramedics. Paramedics came. I ended up having to I don't even know how I did. I think I was crying during the whole time, calling Darren's mom. And that was the hardest thing too that I've had to do, even in that program, because he was one of my closest friends. And that was probably the biggest eye-opener thing. Granted, like I said, it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we graduated. So it just kind of brought the roof down at the program. And so it was just the biggest eye-opener thing for me, for sure, on so many different angles and everything like that. But to basically tag off of Logan's story, like, you get used to people dying from this drug, and it's the saddest thing. It is. It really
It's like
is.
sounds like
So,
you become almost like numb to it.
you do.
Yeah.
It's super sad.
Everything
That's awful.
is normal. Like all the people dying, the crazy stories.
And even
the-
now, like we just had a friend. Literally,
Oh,
I'll
God.
send you. I'll have a picture. I was just in his hospital bed next to him.
Awful.
Literally, just died, overdosed. A guy that we graduated from, with. And it's just like that's what we're noticing is everyone that we graduated with around. A lot of people are falling. Of course, not everyone. But
Yeah,
the
but-
percentage
Yeah.
is super high, and the drug game is just it's so real, and I think that's where like we want to help people kind of out of that, coming out
Yeah.
of that. So these stories, like
Yeah.
they're
I was
lessons
gonna ask,
and
like-
everything I've learned.
You know, a lot of people, they go through these programs and they have a really hard time getting out. You know, I want to hear from
Yeah.
you guys because you guys are both thriving right now in your lives. And how were you able to make it out? And also, you know, like I know you, Bryson, I don't know you, Logan, as well, but already I can tell from your vibe, like you don't carry that like really heavy weight of like, you know, what this drug kind of brings and like that constant hunger. You know, I don't sense that from you at least. And how did you get where you are? Like what was the pivotal moment?
Whew, that's a great question. You know, I was on the streets on the run for 8 years. I'm actually coming up on my 8-year clean from opiates and amphetamines on March 3rd this coming year. So I feel really happy about that.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And like you said,
Yeah,
it's
that's fucking awesome.
a positive thing. Like we were talking about all these stories and reminiscing, and you know, you miss people, but you have to be. I'm so happy for Bryson. I'm so happy for a lot of our other
Yeah.
friends that you get used to losing a lot of people, but the ones that do make it end up doing really well for themselves. And you can
Yeah.
have that ongoing friendship and support. We can reminisce about guys like Darren, guys like Mike Emery, guys like Davey. And there's still guys out there on the streets that we want to help, that we went to that program with.
PJ.
Yeah. And so, oh gosh, the pivotal moment or the changing for me, I guess I was doing it so long. And after I got court sentenced to the ranch, right? So a lot of guys were going there because their families they were LDS and they heard through the grapevine in the church that it was a good place. For me, I had gotten caught selling all those drugs very shortly after the story I
He
told.
married a Mormon girl, by the
did.
way. But anyways, go ahead.
Used to be Mormon, but we'll get into that. But so shortly after that story I told, where we had to pull that guy out of the bathroom, I got arrested again. I've been to jail, prison, locked up 6 separate times, doing a total of 3.5 years behind bars, another 28 months at facilities. Well, just at the JVA, and then there's others. But after the court telling me I had to stay here, my parole officer was coming to check on me.
Oh, so you were court appointed.
I was court appointed.
So you had
after.
to do the program.
If I didn't finish the program, I would
You were
have
going to
had to
jail.
go do 5 years in prison for the charges I had got.
Damn.
Which was distribution of narcotics, possession of a gun without a license, and possession of prescription medication without a valid prescription.
Wow.
Okay.
So they were throwing the book at me, and especially after I had all that issues in Maricopa County. I was in Yavapai at this point, but they were really trying to screw me to the wall. So in court, my parents kind enough to fork out money for the lawyer. Got court sentenced to the JVA. There was no way I could leave, no matter how unfair it was, no matter how crazy the owner was, no matter... We had so many guys that would come into that program and leave. They'd do it for a month or two and be like, yeah, it's not for me. And they just get to walk right out into the free world.
Yep.
And we just sit back and be like, must be nice. I'm here for the long haul. And no matter what crazy shit happens or what rules are in place, like I have to be here. Or I
Yeah.
just go do the 5 years or go back on the run. And when you're on the run, you make horrible choices.
And everyone's different, like their mindset. Like, as you can see, like Logan, he's telling you right now where his mindset was. I was looking at 8 to 15 years if I didn't complete that program, and I still chose to steal that fucking safe. So it just tells you how long it takes for the mind
Yeah.
to kind of come back.
Well,
So,
and it
go ahead.
goes
No,
back
that's
to what you
great.
said too about having that like instant gratification.
Yep, that's big for me. I'm still learning that to this day.
No, I am too. Like I've replaced other addictions now with like the gym and like other things. You know, like I want that gratification. It's like when you get that burning desire in your heart, people like us will do nothing until it's completed. And so
Yeah.
you can make that successful for work, successful for the gym. You can successful as a father.
Dude, we always fucking
Yeah.
talk about as like addicts, addicts will be and are the most successful fuckers in the world
Resilient. We're cockroaches out here,
if
man.
they choose to get off of drugs and apply that same drive that they had for drugs as they do with their business or their life. I
Marriage,
promise
whatever.
you, they will always be at the very top. And it's just because of that drive that they have. And I still can't do it. Like, that's still something I'm trying to learn. How do I take that drive that I had out on the streets every day for years? I would get $200 a day worth of drugs every single day. I don't even make that much money now, I don't think. Yeah, that's my point. Like, that's what I'm trying to say is, like, it's crazy. And so if you take that drive and you can do that in a sobriety world, you'll go far and successful.
For me, there was no pivotal moment. So I had the whole huge arrest at the very end, which I was like, I talked to my parents and they basically told me this is, who knows, they could have helped me again, but they said, this is the last time. They never bailed me out. I've been to jail, like I said, 6 different times for stents. And every single time with my parents, it was the same. We love you. Call us when you get out. We'll buy you a cab. We'll never put money in your books. We'll never bail you out. You got to learn a lesson.
Same with my parents.
And every time I was in there, unfortunately, I was detoxing too. So I was detoxing in a jail cell with no good food, no comfort, a young...
Alone.
In jail. And they make, younger men like us, when you go in, like, you're expected to do things and to work for the race that you belong to.
Yeah.
And so I just remember getting arrested, going back in, having this experience with the ranch. And I just told myself, and I've said it before, but I said, not again. I had just completed a rehab prior. I built my life back. I paid off the banks. I completed probation, and then I pissed it all away again and got even worse and got even more in debt. And this time I'm pulling bodies out of my house like it's nothing. And so my mom and dad just told me, like, I was from the jail phone. They're like, Logan, do you want to go to prison? Like, what do you think will help you? And I just said, I don't know. I want to do better. I did better before. I just don't know why it doesn't click with me. Like, I'll get to a certain point and then I want to destroy it. I want to go back out. And, like, it's a weird subconscious feeling. I don't really know how to explain it. But they asked me if I would be willing to try and willing to get back on track. And I said, yes. I don't want to go to prison. If I knew if I went and did 5, it would turn to 10. We have friends that have done hard time, and a guy like me and him, I'll go and try to impress people in prison and do things they tell me to do to feel cool. And my 5 years will turn to 10 or 15 because of
you turned it into a game.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. And, like, that's just the dumb mentality I had. I wanted people to like me so much that I would do whatever. I would shock people for that attention. And so after getting to the ranch, and I think the court appointment forcing me to be there actually was pivotal for me, because after I completed something so... at the time, you feel like so unfair and so inconvenient and so off the wall. I put this time in, though. I finished it. Most people don't finish it. It makes you almost feel like you're in the Navy SEALs, or, not that important, but it's kind of that vibe. It's like, I'm with elite men that chose to finish this.
Not a lot of people graduate from that program because it's so difficult and tough.
It would be amazing if we had body cam footage of just some of the things we experienced, because it breaks the normal person down.
John Vulcan would be locked up for life if we did.
Oh my God, this reminds me of, like, that whole Paris Hilton thing that she went to.
Yeah.
So, like, what's, like, one thing you could tell the listeners that was, like, a what the fuck moment there?
Oh God!
Only thing that changed
prayer time
us,
for every meal for me. There's a small one, but
only time I would say the only thing that actually got us to change, and I preach this even to this day, is how the program was. I don't think everyone is built for that, and they end up leaving. But just to give you a little background, every week, and sometimes twice a week, you will get in a group, and remember, there's 50 guys. You get in a circle of chairs and you sit down. The only rule is you cannot get up out of your seat. And I think the other rule is you must yell. I don't know if that's
mandatory loud confrontations is what I remember.
So you're calling people out for their bullshit, and who's going to know that best when he's manipulating me or whatever? And that's what I got called out for the most, is manipulation. I was like, they hit me hard with that. So what did I have to do? I only had one option, and that was two options. That's to leave or take a look at my shit and start changing it, because I have these 50 guys that are literally screaming at me to change, calling me out on my shit.
Saying awful things too, mind you. Like, you're in this circle and it's not a fun, like, emotional building time. It's like, you're an awful person. You don't deserve to have your kids. You are a piece of shit who will die in a ditch. Save us the effort. Why are we wasting breath on you? Go back out and start using today. We don't want to do this group anymore. Get the fuck out if you're not fucking serious. Like, it is hardcore with what they say. And
people leave the program, and of course they relapse and die. Why did they relapse and die? Did that draw them to it? I don't know, but it was super intense is all I'm trying to say. And that's why he was saying only the elite make it out of that program. And so that was the first accomplishment, I think, for all of the guys, right?
Yeah.
You build off of that. Once you have that, you keep on going. I've never been to a program that has been so intense.
No. I mean, and coupled with the group and the therapy, I mean, you're working 12 to 14-hour days for free. And, like, you're breaking your back in the Arizona summer, laying concrete, laying pavers, delivering hay. I'm throwing 100-pound hay bales, 50 bales in the back of a truck bed in the middle of summer wearing jeans and boots. And I'm loading them up to drive to some old lady's house to drop them off. It is just back-breaking labor, no comfort at all. There is no, female interaction, no internet, no cell phone, no music.
And if you're fucking tired, get the fuck over it.
Yeah, that was the rules of the program. It was seriously, it would be off the wall. Oh, you're sick? Get over it. Oh, you're tired, your back hurts?
Get out of fucking
Go
bed
do 10
and
more
shovel
hours
shit.
out there. It was literally whatever you thought you needed or were saying, they would do the opposite to make you uncomfortable.
Now it sounds like that maybe the pendulum has like swung like really. It probably went too far at times, but I don't know. Hearing this, like, there is something about that, like, and knowing you guys, there is an element of that to like being a man that I do feel like a lot of society and like men right now are missing, and maybe it went too far in some instances, but I do feel like you guys are probably able to show up better as a man, a father, just a person. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I mean, and kind of to cave into your question that you just asked Logan earlier, was like my pivotal moment. I don't know if I really have one. Still to this day, I'm still on that pivot, if that kind of makes sense. Like, it's kind of weird to think about. Like, I think about, like, I remember right before I went into the program, I was in jail, same kind of thing. And I remember this, and I'll remember it clear as day. My mom sitting on the phone, and I was looking at 8 to 15 years, and she literally said, I'm ready for you to die. No. She said, I'm ready for you to die or be locked up forever. I have mentally prepared myself for that. And hearing my mom say that with no emotion, because she had none, hit me like a ton of bricks. And I would like to say that was my turning point, or the start of it. Granted, fast forward, I still stole the safe, but I didn't. I did get high after that, but
it's always a
bad situation. Yeah. I just like to say, even still to this day, like, I'm still learning so much about me. And the difference is I have my daughter, and I have my wife, and I'm using my wife as that source to communicate and talk to. And I would say that's probably the healthiest thing I got, is just openly communicating to her. If I want to steal something, tell her. If I want to use, or if I'm depressed, talk to her about it. I'm even doing it with my family, and I do it with friends already. Tyler, Shulman, Logan. I always call them every day, 9:00 on the dot. Always. And I think that's what keeps me. That's what keeps me sober, honestly. And so I'm still on that pivot, and I'm going to stay in that pivot, I guess, is kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
So many stories, so many insane moments. It sounds like there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of sorrow, a lot of triumph, a lot of like victory. Where are you guys at in life now? What are you guys up to?
Yeah, it's been a huge journey since all that. And coming out of the program, I was really lucky. So within the program, what got me started on my career path today, and Bryson actually worked with me in this when they made it, which is pretty cool. So if you don't know much about the JVA at Arizona, the jobs and the resources they provide for you are very much so blue collar. So what they teach you, I came into the program not a man's man. I didn't know how to use tools. I worked at restaurants here and there. I really had no career or education. And so really, after being there for so long, the true success and guys that were graduating and leaving before me were all like farm hands, construction guys, tractor guys. And so halfway through, I was getting anxious, like, well, what am I going to do? I don't see myself as that kind of person. And so right about the halfway point in my program, one of the other programs, there's 3 locations, one in Seattle, one in Arizona, and one in Canada. And there was a guy who became a really close friend of mine in Utah that I lived with and worked with closely. His name's Adam. He came to our program after he had graduated Seattle and basically said that, hey, we have this new job for guys on the ranch. If they're open to it, it has nothing to do with farm work or tools or construction. It has to do with sales. And it was the most random thing ever. They brought us computers. They had just built the student center, and they had that cool garage where the carpentry was done. And upstairs, like, there was an upstairs level in the carpentry warehouse where there was these random empty offices. And so this guy came down from Seattle. He bought 4 desks, 4 huge computers, and basically came to our program director, James, at the time, Georgiana, and he was like, hey, I need a senior brother, senior student, to spearhead this. This has been a really successful, lucrative operation for the Seattle program, giving guys a cool job to do while still making money for the program. We want you guys to work with this software company in Utah called Jump, and they basically try to help local businesses with their online presence and reviews, websites getting found. And
it was a shit show.
It was a shit show. And I'll tell you, we could get way... I actually met my wife at that place. Anyway. So he was like, hey, we need 4 guys. We need 1 leader, 3 other guys, and we want them upstairs working and air conditioned on computers. And me being the kind of guy that I'm like, oh, no more hard labor, working in air conditioning, computer access. Yeah, that's me all day. Sign me up. I'll be the boss. So
you got to pick your team.
And I got to pick my team. And if you can believe it, I fucking picked this guy. And
I was young in the program.
He was young in the program too.
Everyone was mad.
I liked him for whatever reason, and I, gravitated to Bryson. We were close the whole time, and so I selected Bryson. And so basically what they had us doing...
This was a big deal because we had internet access.
Right.
Think of what you can do with internet access.
Big no-no for anyone under a year in the program. At that point, I was the only one who had that kind of time. And so I wanted all younger guys, though, to lead. And I thought it was a cool opportunity to give these younger guys in the program out of these really shitty jobs they force you to do. I didn't take to tools well. I wasn't a welder. I wasn't a ranch hand. So I got stuck in barns for most of my program, shoveling shit and doing the awful work because I wasn't so applied with the construction stuff. So I picked younger guys who were having to go through that, I felt like, to give them a break, to give them some sunlight at the end of the tunnel, give them some AC, out of the sun. So I set my team up. We had the computers, and we started doing calls just like this, where we're on like a face-to-face video chat. We're partnering with this company, and we're basically a little appointment setters for Jump Software, who's now dissolved. But
Logan was the only good one.
I saw an opportunity to never go back in the sunlight and break my back again, so I really tried hard to do well.
He applied it.
I applied it, and I was really good at it. And Bryson was good at it. There's a few of the guys that really took a shine to sales and to communication that did well. So I ended up doing that the last, 8-7 months of my program.
Yeah.
It was a really good setup. I was comfy computer, and they were paying me in an account that would be released to me at the end of my program. So I was making not as much as I should have been, but a decent amount of money. I think I left the program with like $4,000 in a bank account, which was pretty cool.
And a job.
Yeah.
And a job.
That was the best.
So
and a job.
Yes, and they said, so if I did well, they would pay me, and then this opportunity would extend itself after I had graduated, which was super cool. So I graduate the program. My parents are thrilled. They're actually relocating to Texas. So I graduate, they pick me up. We go to an airport. We fly to Dallas. I set up a home office in their house while I'm getting my bearings, getting back into society, because prior was, 4 years of intravenous heroin use, then a stint in jail, and then 28 months at an all-men's ranch. So I was a little weird conversationally and attitude-wise. So I was kind of deprogramming, de-brainwashing, and getting back into society, doing that at my parents'. And they really took a shine to me. They liked me a lot. They thought I put a lot of good energy into my calls and effort. And so they extended an opportunity for me to relocate to Utah on my own. They were going to help myself and Adam, the guy who got the program started for us. We were both felons. Get a rental place, a condo. It was a 3-bedroom condo in Utah that the owner of the company actually put his name on it so that we could live there, which I thought was so freaking cool because my credit
really
at the
badass.
time Right. My credit at the time was non-existent. I had burnt Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. I could not get a credit card. I could not even get a debit card. So to have that when I left was super cool. Today, where I'm at, I've climbed the corporate ladder, I guess you could say. I've switched around to different companies. Jump, unfortunately, no longer now is around. They were purchased out, and in that world, there's so many moving parts. But I learned so much. I grabbed a ton of great skills. I made a LinkedIn, which has gotten me all the jobs I've had in the last 6 years. I recommend LinkedIn.
That's amazing.
For real. No, it's great. And I met my wife
Networking.
at that company. And so a lot of really good stuff happened. It shaped my life for the future and kind of set me on this trajectory and gave me that push. I'm so lucky and so fortunate to be working. I work fully remote here in Arizona now. We hated Utah. My wife and I both weren't from there. So when I got this gig, she was like, we're going somewhere warm, and this is my
We're
spot.
leaving.
Exactly. My parents are here. My sister's here. My friends are here. So I have the freedom now to work at home, be with her. When we have a child, I can be there for the kid. You know, I have a dog today who I can raise, and like
Fur baby.
I have a golden doodle. He's dope. And I work from home. I spend time with the wife. I have the freedom to go pick up groceries, go to the gym when I need to. I am just at home. And our bills are covered and paid. And I work for a healthcare company now in the enterprise level space. So like $1 million deals. I would have never been able to tell you if you asked me back, even at my graduation date, what do you think you'll be doing? Or how well do you think you'll be doing? This was like a dream come true, unfathomable for me. I would have never imagined, and I'm just so happy and grateful and humbled that this is happening and still taking place today. And now I'm able to share this story and be with my friend, and we're able to bring this to other people and show like, hey, you can, just because you have something on your record or you did something that you regret or something that haunts you from your past, you can build something truly amazing and still be like a huge winner in society. It doesn't define you. People do forget. So don't be afraid to live that life that you should have been living the whole time.
Fuck
Yeah, and he's being modern too. He's being super polite.
Modest.
He's modest. He's a baller. He's took the cells and he kills it. So,
Logan's balling it up.
I wish someday I'll be a baller. Come on, one day.
That's fucking amazing. I mean, yeah.
Thank
wow.
you.
Yeah, seriously. What about you, Bryson? What are you up to nowadays?
So I started a little different than Logan. I met my wife towards the last month of my program there. And so we hit it off pretty well, and that kind of helped me get into the world again. Not only that, but John Volkin offered me a position at the ranch to just kind of oversee the outside jobs. We started growing that, and so we were building shade structures, and I was building that and using the guys to build that, and so we were generating money into the nonprofit, and so it was all good. We ended up not seeing eye to eye on the business sense, so I ended up moving on. I ended up getting involved with this super cool Arabic dude. He owns a bunch of gas stations, and he wanted to open up a car wash. So he knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about it. And he already started build out when he found me on LinkedIn. And so he reached out to me, and I met up with him, and we hit it off well. And so I started running his companies for him. So I was running his gas stations and car wash. And the car wash it was an express, quick car wash kind of thing. It wasn't as lucrative as he thought it would be. So we ended up selling it. We ended up selling to Cobblestone, which had over 200 locations in Colorado and Arizona combined. And so I ended up getting with them. They bought the car wash out, and they offered me a position in their company to run their fleet department. So they didn't really launch that or anything, and I got involved with them. I've been with them for about coming up on 2 years now, and the fleet department is growing every day, and it's good. And I'm kind of shifting everything, and I want to and that's where the idea came from with the podcast and just helping others and getting involved with the community, giving back to the community, because I think that's what drives us both in staying sober today. I know that's a big part, helping others and doing all that, and my wife loves it, and that's kind of where I'm at. We have a little baby girl, Ellie, and
She's
the
so
life of the
cute.
party.
She's cool.
She's literally the cutest.
Yeah.
Very happy baby.
Also, something I want to say to the listeners, we all go through shitty things in life, and you come out sometimes and you're like, what the fuck am I going to do? Where do I start? Where do I even begin?
Watch them fire me after this podcast goes public. JK.
Like,
they know.
It's not a fit.
So where does everyone follow you guys for your pod? And
So
all your socials.
we're
like,
still
tell
getting
everyone.
all that. We're still getting all that shit plugged in. But
Okay.
Elevated Life Together
Yep.
on Twitter, Instagram,
TikTok. Yeah.
and we're still getting it plugged in. There's the website elevatedlife together.com. You
Merch.
can go there.
Merch coming soon.
We're getting merch. Yeah.
And the merch looks sick. I've seen it.
It's cool stuff, man.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll make sure to put all the socials in there in the descriptions for everyone to follow.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming. This
is
was
good.
really
This
amazing.
This was a vibe.
Yeah.
This was really nice to meet you.
It was really nice to meet you too. I hope to have you guys back sometime soon.
Anytime.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, to all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed this episode with Logan and Bryson. Bryson. And make sure you like,
Bryson.
follow, subscribe, comment. You guys have
Logan
been...
Norris.
All right. Dope.
Thanks, Jade.
Thank
You're
you.
the
welcome.
best.
Great
Do you want
show.
to say,
Yeah.
wait. Em,
What?
do you want to say hi?